Yeah. Hi, my name is Phil Robles. I drive a 92 Civic with a K24 swap in it that's boosted with a Pandem kit, and maybe you've seen it around. I've owned the car since roughly 2006, and it started as a daily driver. I bought this car from my son Jesse. He was interested in getting, I had an EK at the time, and he was interested in getting rid of his EG, and I thought, kind of a fan of that EG, so I thought maybe we can do a little bit of a swap here. So we did, and I ended up with the EG, and the rest is history. Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people are a little confused when they see Phil Robles, that he seems to be an older guy that is in love with pretty popular JDM cars. And that didn't happen by accident. It was something that kind of evolved over the years. I've always been a car guy. I grew up in the 70s. Had muscle cars back in the day. I was a VW guy back in the day, and like a lot of car people, things just kind of evolve. You get attached to a certain brand. Maybe it's a European car, maybe it's a JDM style, whatever it is, but one of the things that influenced me a lot was the fact that I was a military guy, so we traveled around quite a bit. So your exposure is different from being just like in the U.S. To me, I mean, if you're a car guy, you're just a car guy. So my last tour was in Okinawa. I honestly drove a Mini actually when I was in Japan. And the Mini scene is pretty big, especially in Okinawa. There's quite a large Mini group there. If you've ever been to Okinawa, you will understand that how passionate the Japanese people are about motorsports in general, and how cool it was to be just like, you know, not only having children that were old enough to maybe drive cars, and I could go out with them and jump in a couple of drift machines in Okinawa and do a Saturday night drive with a bunch of young dudes and have the most awesome time ever. Leaving Japan and retiring from the military, we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and we got interested in doing some track days. So I just happened to have this Civic. It was my daily driver, and I was kind of interested in doing track days, and I thought, well, let's try out the NASA Arizona region scene and see what we can make happen. So that was the initial jump into motorsports racing a car. If you're familiar with the way NASA works, it's quite the structure where you start in DE1, you graduate into DE2, DE3, and then at that point you can split to do time trials if you want. You can do race group if you want. There was also a time attack. Probably I'm guessing like DE2, DE3. I kind of made a decision that I was going to go down the time trial route. I wasn't too interested in doing race group, so I thought, time trial sounds kind of cool because you're not doing wheel to wheel bumping cars, and I kind of respected the car. I didn't want something that I was going to, go thrashing around the track with. Some of the race group cars are a little questionable. I'll be serious. I mean, I kind of like the looks of the time trial cars because they tend to, kind of, I don't know, they care for their cars more. I don't know what it is, but I just didn't want to I didn't want to do bumper cars. Sorry. But when you progress through DE3, there comes a time where you have to make a decision on how fast you want to go. So in order to go fast, that means you stick your tire compounds. That means a lot of things, suspension setups, even if you're going to cage the car, you're going to do modifications that aren't really feasible to drive it on street. You know, you don't want to drive a car with a cage on the street and a set of racing slicks on it. So I made the conscious decision to go down the time trial route, go with sticky tires, full cage, and that's the decision I made, and didn't look back. The evolution of the Civic is kind of interesting because it started with a B18, with the B18C, non-VTEC B18, and then I thought, well, I want to go faster. So I went with the B18 JDM GSR motor, and that was satisfying for a little bit, but there comes a time where you feel like you're zip tying the pedal to the floor. You want to just go faster and faster and faster. So I thought, well, it was kind of, you know, an interesting time was the fact that a lot of people were already doing K swaps in the car. So I thought, well, that sounds kind of interesting to me, to nearly double plus the horsepower that's in the car. So I ended up going with the K24A2 NA, you know, just bolt-ons, the motor, and it's still in its current form, mostly stock internals, and that was a lot of fun. In fact, during that evolution, I won a championship in small bore time trials in TTB class, and once you've won a championship, you kind of want to go to the next level. You want to go, yeah, okay, so I've done TTB now. I'd like to go try TT3. So when you do a K24A2 swap in, it automatically throws the car into a different class, which is, you know, time trial big bore. So I ended up winning a championship in TT3 also, against a bunch of really respectable cars. I mean, you know, TT3 is just it's all based on power to weight in NASA, and we did quite well. We did quite well with the car. A lot of tweaking, a lot of tuning, and you know, I know people are haters about FF cars, but dude, if you learn how to drive one and you set it up correctly, it's a fast car. So I remember clearly back in the day when we were probably at PIR or something like that, I remember talking to some of my buddies, you know, some of my friends that are actually in this room, and they asked me, like, well, Phil, you know, what are your plans for the future? What do you really want to do with a car? And I go, I just want to keep adding power so I can go faster. And they said, well, how fast do you want to go? And I go, well, you know, that's to be determined. We'll figure that out, you know. And there's only so far you can go with a B series. So the K series, like I said before, was a natural progression for the car. And then we finally, after you drive that car for a while and you get used to the power, then all of a sudden you say, well, how can we make that K series faster? With boost. That's how you make it faster. I wouldn't say that a K series is an affordable engine swap in the car, because a lot of it, if you're driving it on the street, yes, maybe. But if you want to track a K series car, there has to be a ton of changes that have to happen. So doing that in a 2-car garage in my house was that was pretty epic. I mean, I live in a community where I have an HOA. I have people yelling at you saying, hey dude, you can't be working on your car out there in your driveway. And I was like, it's my car. They thought I was doing some sort of, you know, commercial work on other people's cars. And I'm like, this is my race car. And when we would do work on the car, we would do the work, we would clean everything up, and then before the evening came, we'd push the car back into a tiny little 2-car garage that had, you know, slicks stacked and wheels stacked and tools everywhere. And that's just the nature. I mean, I can relate to people that are trying to they're doing the track situation and they're actually working out of a 2-car garage, it gets really cramped. You got to be really creative, you know. So, you know, there were so many times where I had friends that would just come over and pitch in and help, and, you know, and it was an amazing time. Like, we were tracking the car probably 2 times a month. So I would do a NASA weekend, then I would do a Pro Auto Sports weekend, and probably for probably 3 or 4 years there, I was a busy dude on track. I was determined to make this car faster, you know, make it evolve it into something that I wanted, not necessarily down the time trial route or down the race group route. I wanted something that I could build that was cool, you know, that would go fast and people would notice it. So, like, I'm a car dude, and car dudes love to talk about cars, and I really get stoked when people ask me questions about the car, because I love conversations about, you know, why I've done this, or how much power the car makes, or who built the cage and who does things. You know, it's not something that I did myself. Yeah, I was the guy that kind of organized the whole build process, but there's a lot of other people that are involved also, because if you're not a certified, you know, if you're not a welder, then, you know, often you can't you know, bend pipe and TIG weld like a master. But you know what you need to build a race car, and you know the right people to talk to get that kind of work done. And I do a lot of the wrenching on the car myself. You know, myself and my friends and my son Jesse, we do a lot of the wrenching on the car. But there's a lot of things that you have to do that you have to depend on other people. And I like talking about that kind of stuff. When people first see the car, one of the most common questions they ask me is, like, how much power does the car make? And I go, well, it's not crazy amount of power. It's only like 415 horsepower. But what you have to understand is that this car weighs 2360 with me in it. So the power to weight is ridiculous in this car. And there's no ABS, no assistance at all. So basically, you know, it's all footwork on the car. So yeah, it's a hot rod. One of the favorite things about my car, I think, is how raw it is. It's a K24A2 boosted, fires flames through the roof. It's got a 5-speed sequential gearbox. It's got a spoon 1.5-way clutch pack diff in it. It has RCR Racing front GT, Brembo Racing GT floating rotors. So this thing is like a complete noise box when you're driving this thing. It's super, super raw, and the suspension is like crazy stiff. So you know you're in a race car when you're driving this car. In 2015, I think I won my last championship with TT3. I was running slicks. I was on Hoosier A7s. The car was just fast as hell. And we tracked that whole year, 2016. And that's when I added the Pandem kit, because I wanted more grip. So I wanted to run like I wanted to run a much wider setup on the car. And we had done some creative work on the car to make that happen earlier. But then when Pandem released this kit for the EG, I was like, oh my God, dude, this is like perfect, you know. So we ordered the Pandem kit in like 2016, and we put that on, and we did early 2017. We tested with it to make sure that we weren't going to blow the fenders off and damage a lot of that expensive FRP that it's made out of. And then somewhere like early summer of 2017, Matt Yee offered us a spot because he offered us a spot at SEMA because it was he was one of the top 10 distributors of for Mackin in the U.S. So they said, hey, do you have any ideas on someone you want to offer the spot to? And he's like, well, maybe I might have this guy, and he's got a Honda Civic, and they're probably like, oh God, a Honda Civic? Like, really? We're going to put a Honda Civic in the main aisle? And he's like, yeah, I think Matt was pretty convincing. He probably said, you kind of want to see this Civic though. So they're like, they signed off on it. So in 2017, October, end of October, we're on our way to SEMA. And leading up to that was just like it was a storm, dude. We were like, it was a couple of weeks of really, really intense working on the car, trying to make everything work, getting the car painted. We took it to Dylan at 11's, and he said, yeah, I can get it painted for you. We'll get everything done for you, but you have a lot of work to do. And we understood that it was just an enormous amount of work. And fortunately, I had a bunch of really good friends that were willing to pitch in, and that made some long friggin' nights in my driveway putting this thing together, right up until the day that we're going to SEMA, where it was all hands on deck. We probably, I don't know, we probably cussed at each other a few times and said, are you sure you friggin' want to do this, dude? Because this is a shitload of work. I'm like, we'll make it, man. Carlos and I, that morning, we were hooking up the trailer. It was like 3 in the morning. We'd worked all night, and the rest of the boys had all gone home, and they're like, well, we're handing it off to you. The car was together. We had a couple of big issues that we had to kind of overcome. The damn trailer lights wouldn't work on the car. You turn the lights on, we're taking off at 3 in the morning to head to Vegas. The trailer lights weren't working. The only time they would work is if I had the emergency flashers on. So guess what? Carlos and I are on the way to, we're tired as hell. Tired as hell. We probably had way too much coffee. But the thing that we both remember, and we still laugh about this, is the fact that you could hear till the sun came up in the morning, it was emergency flashers going down the road. And we're both like zombied out. We're going click, 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 click. So we just turned the damn radio up louder and talk and laugh and pretend that we didn't hear that click every 10 seconds or whatever the hell it was. And dude, we made it there, but more drama on the way. We unloaded we're looking at the car, and we realized that along the way, I don't know if it was the way we strapped the car in or what happened, but the car was moving in the trailer. The straps, we had checked it on the way there a couple of times when we were filling up with fuel, but apparently that last little bit where you get into Vegas, the car moved, and the splitter hit the inner fender on the trailer, and it broke it. So we're seriously an hour away from loading in to SEMA, and we had to run to a hardware store and buy some patch kit and put this damn splitter together. And by this time we were done, dude. We just wanted to get this car out of the trailer, roll it in, park it, and probably lay down next to the car and take a damn nap. One sip.
And then go into it.
So we loaded the car in at SEMA. Actually, I didn't load it in. Actually, Carlos did, because we were under the gun. We pulled up to the place where we were unloading the car, and the guy came out like ordering us around and said, "You've got like 5 minutes to unload this car and get that trailer out of here." So Carlos and I made the conscious decision to, okay, Carlos, you drive the car into the staging area. I'll take the truck and trailer and go find parking for it. And Carlos ended up firing it up and driving it in. We're having a little bit of an overheating issue. So one of the fans or something, one of the pins was bent, and the fan wasn't coming on, so it was overheating, and I think he was sweating it out trying to get the car in the staging area, because the Mackin booth was the big booth in the main building, and then we were like in this hallway across from them, which is kind of an interesting situation, because it turned out that the person that had parked in that spot the year prior won the Gran Turismo award. And we weren't there to win any awards. We were just there because we were invited by Mackin to show the car. And the car got surprising amount of interest in it. And there were a few judges, some of the people from Super Street Magazine, and a lot of editors. They were going around the SEMA show, and they were picking cars out that they thought would be, in competition to win this Gran Turismo award. So while the show was going on, we were informed that the car had been picked as best JDM, and we're in competition for a Gran Turismo award. So, that's a huge honor to get recognized like that. And they said, well, by the way, you've got to go to this big party up in some rooftop hotel that we were at. And remember, Jesse and I showed up there. We didn't think it was a big deal. We thought it was going to be a small situation. And Jesse and I walked in. We still had our T-shirts on, and we're like, wow, this is a pretty serious event going on here. And they were so nice. They escorted us to a private table, and then it came to the point where they said, okay, well, we're going to do the awards ceremony now. So they, showed the 5 finalists up on the big screen, and of course the Garage RCR Civic was one of them, and we were like, blown away. So we went backstage, and they started calling them up one by one. They said, okay, best JDM, best hot rod, best this, best that. And so we got our award, and we left the stage, and we're on our way to go back to our table so we could finish our beers. And one of the girls at the stage said, Mr. Robles, you might want to hold on for just a minute. And I remember Jesse looking at me going, dude, I think we may have won. I think we may have won the big one. And I'm like, nah, I can't imagine that. We won the big one. We won the Gran Turismo award. Jared DeAndre, he gave us the award on stage. I was blown away. I got pretty damn emotional, I'll tell you. I was very emotional by that point. Not only had it been a long 2 weeks just prepping, but I was so damn tired. But the emotion of winning that award, to be recognized, by Gran Turismo, by Sony, by Polyphony, that was just like overwhelming, man. It just kind of brought the whole week to a head. Going, I still have the trophies over there, and I still display those things, and I'm always quick to tell people, yeah, that's a Gran Turismo car, man. It's no joke. It's no joke, and we built that damn thing. The message I got from Polyphony was that it would probably be, I don't know, within a year that the car would be scanned. I made the decision to not drive the car on track anymore, because the last thing I wanted to do was take the car out after we'd done so much work on it, wad it up somewhere, and then find out that they needed to do their thing with the car. So they finally set a firm date. We made an arrangement with Tony Zerka from UMS Tuning that we would do the scan there, and they showed up with like a team of like 12 people with 3D scanners, and the whole process took like 2.5 days. I want to say that it was a 2.5 day process. So it wasn't just like a a quick once over and they're out of there. No, they stuck around for a while. And they scanned the car, and then they said, okay, so what's going to happen now is there's going to be a guy from Seattle that's going to show up, and he's going to do all of the sound checks. So again, we had to ask Tony if it was okay if we go to UMS and put the car on his Dynapack dyno, and Tony gave him all the graphs, you know, all the power outputs. And we did like 4 hours of jamming on the car, dude. We were just ripping on that thing. We had it's got a 5-speed Quave sequential gearbox, so he's banging gears, he's making fire come out the pipe, and it's just freaking epic, man. And the guy's like digging it, you know. He's like, okay, make it shoot more flames, make it louder, you know. And Tony was obliging him, dude. You know, because the car was on the Dynapack at the time, so he could not only make all the sounds correct, but he could show them, and they could record exactly how much power, how much torque the car is making. Plus, you know, we were back and forth with a lot of emails that, you know, he wanted to see dynographs and things like that, so that they can make the car as real as possible in the game. You know, so when you hear the car in the game, that's the actual car you're listening to. When you see the power numbers, that's the power number. I think it says 396 in the game. It actually makes a little bit more than that, but it is what it is. You know, we were kind of in a situation. Jesse and I, my son, we were in a situation where we were kind of running out of room at the house, and you know, we're getting tired of working on cars and driveways and stuff like that. And around, I want to say like in January of 2020, we made a decision to rent some space so that we could open up Garage RCR. We'd have room for all our cars. We wouldn't have to move parts around like we'd been doing for many years. And unfortunately, if you put that timeline with January 2020, and a couple of months later, COVID kind of hit during that time, that was kind of a crap storm. I won't lie. You know, there were many times where we were just kind of, you know, people were just like hiding out, rightfully so. The decision to move into this space, it's only 1,300 square feet, but we can have a 2-post lift for working on cars. And just out of camera range, we've got a 4-post lift where we've got Jesse's S13, and we've got a vintage Porsche that I'm currently working on. I've probably been working on way too long on it, but that'll get done. That'll get done. Our focus right now is we've got a kind of a bigger project coming in down the road. It was a great decision for us to finally move out of a 2-car garage and move into some place where we could really, you know, stretch our elbows out and have all our tools here, and it's been a total blast, dude. We've been digging it. We had the car on the lift for the longest time, and we're like, man, we've got to kind of keep this car going. So it runs on 100 octane gas, 100 octane racing fuel. So occasionally we take it out. You know, we take it for a little rip around town. We take it to a Cars and Coffee or something like that, just because I like driving the car. No matter how raw the car is, you know, I know it's fully caged and it's got slicks on it, and it's got a sequential gearbox that makes a ton of noise, and it probably attracts a hell of a lot of attention also. In fact, so much so that whenever we'd rip around town in it, I'd look over and I'd see people like filming out of their car, like, what the hell is that thing, man? It's just not, once you modify a car, you do a Pandem kit on it, it kind of changes the look of the car. It makes it super aggressive. You know, we've got crazy setup, crazy wheels on the car, and it's got a you know, wastegate pipe that goes out through the roof, so people are like, dude, you just don't see it. You don't see cars like that on the street that much. And it's a Honda Civic. we made a decision to go to Rennsport Reunion, which is an all Porsche event. And I went with some of my friends. I went with Paul, Carlos, Matt. My wife even joined us to go to Rennsport. She was willing to go along. So it was kind of crazy because on our way there, I started getting these random messages on my phone. Like, it was kind of weird. It was like a shadow message that there's an update to Gran Turismo, and it's like 1.38 update. And for some reason, I couldn't look at, I was driving to Rennsport, but somebody looked at the shadow, in clear GT7 form. They kind of haze everything out, kind of make it mysterious. This update is coming. Dude, I think that might be your car, Phil, finally. And I'm like, oh man, there's no way. So it was just too much of a coincidence that I was at Rennsport. Gran Turismo was doing a competition there. My car got released at the same time. It was just like, I don't know, somebody sprinkled magic dust out there or something like that, and kind of the shit hit the fan, and dude, it's been like craziness since then. I know, I have an Instagram account. I know you probably think, oh, this guy's like an old dude, man. Yeah, I may be old. I may be an older dude, but I got my damn roots in JDM goodness. And I'm very, very proud of that car and what we've done with it. Back in 2012, a group of my friends, some of the friends that are in this room right now, we went to the inaugural Formula One race at COTA. And if you've never been to COTA, it's quite an inspiration. It's like a FIA track that's epic. It's like nothing that I can even think of that's even on the western side of the United States. But we thought, man, wouldn't that be so cool if we ever came back, if we could just drive your own car on COTA. And we built the car to be a track car. Unfortunately, the car hadn't been released yet, so I was a little apprehensive. Post Rennsport, we thought, okay, the car finally got released in Gran Turismo, and that was like, it was almost like a release. Like you're like, all of a sudden you're like, dude, does that mean we can maybe go back to the track with the car again, or what? Should we? And I'm like, hell yeah, dude, let's do it. So that was a different, finally it's, at this point, that's 2023, the end of 2023. And Superlap announced the dates for the 9th and 10th of March of 2024, which is coming up next month. And some of my close friends, projectonethirty and Matthew Yee and CJ and Carrie and Kevin, and they're all like, dude, why don't we just go drive this thing at Superlap? And I'm like, that's a bunch of money. It costs a lot of money to go to Superlap. That's not something you just wake up in the morning. It's not a $270 weekend entry fee. It costs a lot of money to get there. But my friends were willing to help me out, and we just said, screw it, man. Let's take it to Superlap. So what you're seeing right now, the car is torn apart because all these friends of mine, we all spent time in the garage this weekend, and we kind of went over the car and decided, well, some of the things had to be changed, updated, replaced. So basically this whole month is just ordering parts, replacing things, getting the car ready. So March 6th, we load the car in the trailer and we're headed to Austin. So look for us at the 9th and 10th of March. We'll be at COTA for Superlap Battle. And I know that they have some pretty damn good coverage out there, so there's going to be a lot of airtime. Check us out. Are you saying I'm giving you too much information? Shut the Robles.
No.